This is the Yuanzhongzhe Houdao from Bmai, a cushion-focused daily trainer slash easy day shoe, an all-around chonky boy. I've racked up 123 kilometers in my pair so far, and that means it's more than high time for an initial review. As this is just an initial review, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the name, but for the sake of convenience, I've been calling these the Voyager Max. Bmai do have a regular Voyager line, which is more in the lightweight, do-it-all daily trainer sort of category. My only experience with that line is with the Voyager 4 Plus, which I personally thought was a really good shoe. Let's start with the basics. This shoe weighs in at 340 grams in an EU size 46. It has 35mm of stack height in the heel and 30 in the forefoot. And the midsole uses a blend of EVA and PBA that Bmai calls Foam 4 Plus. They set me back 359 renminbi, which is about $50 US. There's no fancy plates, unusual outsoles, or anything else that really needs to be mentioned, so let's get on with the review. Starting with the upper, there's a decent, if not excessive, amount of padding around the heel, whereas the midfoot and forefoot has a thin, fairly breathable mesh. The material is a little bit plasticky to the touch, but feels very comfortable once on the foot. The tongue offers just the right amount of padding for me. Personally, I'm someone who hates huge, thick tongues, and I'm glad to say that this one's protective, but not intrusive. Like my other Bmai shoes, the fit in the forefoot is a little bit more generous than I would like, but in this one, that's quite a minor personal preference sort of a gripe. And to be honest, it hasn't really had much of an impact. The length is spot on, but as someone who kind of falls between shoe sizes anyway, I think in future I'm probably going to try a size 45 in Bmai shoes. The lacing here is fine. It's certainly a lot better than on the 42K carbons. Although I should note, there's quite a lot of friction between the laces and the eyelets, which makes it hard to get sort of a specific lockdown. You kind of try pulling them tight and they don't really budge, and then all of a sudden they just and tighten. Now, because of the type of shoe this is, I don't think you really want them that tight anyway, and the fit is secure enough, and I certainly haven't experienced any sort of slipping. I usually wouldn't mention this, but I haven't had any problems with the insole slash sock liner. That's the one issue I had with the Voyager 4 Plus that would stop me using them as a long run shoe. I just felt, for whatever reason, that the immediate underfoot feeling wasn't as comfortable as other shoes, and that after 16K or something that might start to cause some rubbing or some other issues. Although in fairness, I should say that I never actually tested that theory out. I had the same problem or a similar problem in the 42K carbons, although to a much worse degree. And so I'm very pleased to say that Bmai have fixed the issue with the Voyager Max. The step-in feeling and sort of underfoot, around the foot fit and comfort now feel on a par with other running shoe brands. The outsole is a pretty standard daily trainer affair. It's got some decent tread on it, though it's not the grippiest. I experienced quite a lot of slipping and squeaking underfoot on my first run in this shoe, which was out in the wet, although I have taken it out on rainy days since, without running into the same issues. On the whole, I'd say grip-wise, it's about on the same level as the original Endorphin Speed, so it's not fantastic, but still a million miles better than something like the Nova Blast 3. Now, for the all-important midsole. This Foam 4 Plus material is supposedly a brand new formulation combining PBA and EVA. Exactly how much PBA is added and how much of an impact that has on the overall ride, I'm really not sure. For all I know, it could be a pure marketing gimmick. What I can say is that so far, I've really been enjoying the ride of this shoe. The midsole is soft and cushioned without feeling mushy, and there's a noticeable sink-in feeling, especially in the forefoot when walking or running. While it doesn't exactly feel light and springy, there is a subtle bounce to it. The midsole does feel stable enough, although as someone who doesn't suffer from any sort of stability issues, you should take anything I say in this regard with a very large pinch of salt. Now, it is quite a heavy shoe, with a large stack of fairly soft foam and a moderately padded upper. So it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise when I say that speed is not exactly where it excels. I did take it up to threshold pace for about a kilometer or so during one of my runs, just to see how it felt. And while personally I think it performed markedly better at that pace than the Nike Invincible 2 or the Nova Blast 3, which I've been using as my easy day shoes for the last year or so, it certainly didn't leave me wanting to do more at the top end of my training paces. That said, I wouldn't say this is an out and out easy day shoe like the two that I just mentioned have been, at least for me. The ride feels ever so slightly more nimble, and it does feel like it has a bit more of a range of paces you can comfortably take it through. The obvious comparison for me with this shoe is the Nike Invincible 2, I haven't run in the 1 or the 3. The Invincible has a slightly higher stack, noticeably more bounce, and a far better outsole. But the Voyager Max is a tad lighter, has a more breathable upper, and feels comfortable at a wider range of paces. I've also gone further in the Voyager Max, taking them beyond 20k without them starting to feel like they're sapping my energy, which is something that I couldn't really say about the Nike Invincible 2. Again, obviously that's a personal thing, as I know a lot of people love those shoes for long runs. But for people like me who start to find they get a little bit swampy after a while, I think these are maybe a better option if you were wanting to go the distance. Obviously, I can't speak to the durability of the shoe after just over 100 kilometers, but so far, the ride and the comfort is really impressing me, and they're proving to be a more than worthy successor to the Invincible 2 as the recovery day, easy day shoe in my lineup. And one that I'd say I'm more willing to take on the faster, steady, daily miles sort of runs. I'm looking forward to putting more miles in these shoes and seeing how they hold up over the long run. But for now, based on my initial impressions, I'm giving these a tentative B+. The old get himself louder. That can only mean one thing, which is that we're at the bottom of the hill.